Hello, my name is John Janechig from Mirantis. Welcome to our session on new extensions for Docker CLI. As we all know, containers are everywhere. Kubernetes is coming on strong, and the CNCF cloud landscape slide has become a marvel to behold. Its complexity is about to surpass that of the photolitho dies used to fabricate the old Intel 286, and future generations of the diagram will be built out and up into multiple dimensions using extreme ultraviolet lithography. Meanwhile, complexity is exploding, and uncertainty about tools, platform details, processes, and the economic viability of our companies in changing and challenging times is also increasing. Mirantis, as you've already heard today, believes that achieving speed is critical, and that speed results from balancing choice with simplicity and security. You've heard about Docker Enterprise Container Cloud, a new framework built on Kubernetes that lets you deploy compliant, secure-by-default Kubernetes clusters on any infrastructure, providing a seamless, self-service capable cloud experience to developers. Get clusters fast, just as you need them, update them seamlessly, scale them as needed, all while keeping workloads running smoothly. And you've heard how Docker Enterprise Container Cloud also provides all the day one and day two and observability tools, the integration APIs, and top-down security, identity, and secrets management to run operations efficiently. You've also heard about Lens, an open-source IDE for Kubernetes aimed at speeding up the most demanding, tightest inner loop of Kubernetes application development. Lens beautifully meets the needs of a new class of developers who need to deal with multiple Kubernetes clusters, multiple apps, and projects efficiently. Developers who find themselves getting bogged down in CLI-only kubectl workflows and context switches into and out of them. But what about Docker developers? They're working with the same core technologies all the time. They're accessing many of the same amenities, including Docker Engine Enterprise, Docker Trusted Registry, and so on. Sure, their outer loop might be different. For example, they might be orchestrating on Swarm. Many companies are. Our Future of Swarm session talks about the ongoing appeal of Swarm and Mirantis' commitment to maintaining and extending the capabilities of Swarm going forward. Docker Enterprise Container Cloud can, of course, deploy Docker Enterprise clusters with 100% Swarm orchestration on computes, just as easily as it can provide Kubernetes orchestration or mixed Swarm and Kubernetes clusters. The problem for Docker devs is that nobody's given them an easy way to use Kubernetes without a learning curve and without getting familiar with new tools and workflows, many of which involve GUIs and are somewhat tedious for people who live on the command line and like it that way. Until now. In a few moments, you'll meet my colleagues Chris Price and Lora Powell, who'll enact a little skit to introduce and demonstrate our new extended Docker CLI plugin for Kubernetes. That plugin offers seamless new functionality enabling easy context management between the Docker command line and Docker Enterprise clusters deployed by Docker Enterprise Container Cloud. We hope it'll help devs work faster, help them adapt to K8s as they and their organizations manage platform coexistence or transition. Here's Chris and Lora, or as we like to call them, Developer A and B.
Have you seen the new release of Docker Enterprise Container Cloud? I'm already finding it easier to manage my collection of UCP clusters.
I'm glad it's helping you. It's great we can manage multiple clusters, but the user interface is a little bit cumbersome.
Why is that?
Well, if I want to use Docker CLI with a cluster, I need to download a client bundle from UCP and use it to create a context. I like that I can see what's going on, but it takes a lot of steps.
Let me guess. Are these the steps? First, you have to navigate to the web UI for Docker Enterprise Container Cloud. You need to enter your username and password. And since the cluster you want to access is part of the demo project, you need to change projects. Then you have to choose a cluster. So you choose the first demo cluster here. Now you need to visit the UCP UI for that cluster. You can use the link in the top right corner of the page. Is that about right?
Yep.
And this takes you to the UCP UI login page. Now you can enter your username and password again, but since you've already signed in with Keycloak, you can use that instead. So that's good. Finally, you've made it to the landing page. Now, you want to download a client bundle, which you can do by visiting your user profile. You'll generate a new bundle called Demo and download it. Now that you have the bundle on your local machine, you can import it to create a Docker context. First, let's take a look at the contexts already on your machine. I can see you have the default context here. Let's import the bundle and call it demo. If we look at our context again, you can see that the demo context has been created. Now, you can use the context, and you'll be able to interact with your UCP cluster. Let's take a look to see if any stacks are running in the cluster. I can see you have a stack called MyStack in the default namespace running on Kubernetes. We can verify that by checking the UCP UI. And there it is, MyStack in the default namespace running on Kubernetes. Let's try removing the stack, just so we can be sure we're dealing with the right cluster. And it disappears. As you can see, it's easy to use the Docker CLI once you've created a context, but it takes quite a bit of effort to create one in the first place. Imagine.
Yes, imagine if you had 10 or 20 or 50 clusters to work with. It's a management nightmare.
Haven't you heard of the Docker Enterprise Container Cloud CLI plugin?
No.
I think you're going to like it. Let me show you how it works. It's already integrated with the Docker CLI. You start off by setting it up with your Container Cloud instance. All you need to get started is the base URL of your Container Cloud instance and your username and password. I'll set up my CLI right now. I have to enter my username and password this one time only. And now I'm all set up.
But what does it actually do?
Well, we can list all of our clusters. And as you can see, I've got the cluster demo 1 in the demo project and the cluster demo 2 in the demo project. Taking a look at the web UI, these are the same clusters we're seeing there.
Let me check. Looks good to me.
Now we can select one of these clusters, but let's take a look at our contexts before and after so we can understand how the plugin manages a context for us. As you can see, I just have my default context stored right now, but I can easily get a context for one of our clusters. Let's try demo 2. The plugin says it's created a context called Container Cloud for me, and it's pointing at the demo 2 cluster. Let's see what our contexts look like now. And there's the Container Cloud context ready to go.
That's great. But are you saying once you've run the plugin, the Docker CLI just works with that cluster?
Sure, let me show you. I've got a Docker stack right here, and it deploys WordPress. I'll deploy it to Kubernetes for you. Head over to the UCP UI for the cluster so you can verify for yourself. Are you ready?
Yes.
First, I need to make sure I'm using the context. And then I can deploy. And now we just have to wait for the deployment to complete. It's as easy as ever.
You weren't lying. Can you deploy the same stack to Swarm on my other clusters?
Of course. And that should also show you how easy it is to switch between clusters. First, let's just confirm that our stack is reported as running. I've got a stack called WordPress demo in the default namespace running on Kubernetes. To deploy to the other cluster, first I need to select it. That updates the Container Cloud context. So I don't even need to switch contexts since I'm already using that one. If I check again for running stacks, you can see that our WordPress stack is gone. Bring up the UCP UI on your other cluster so you can verify the deployment.
I'm ready.
I'll start the deployment now. It should be appearing any moment.
I see the service is starting up. That's great. It seems a lot easier than managing contacts manually. But how do I know which cluster I'm currently using?
Well, you can just list your clusters, like so. Do you see how this one has an asterisk next to its name? That means it's the currently selected cluster.
I'm sold. Where can I get the plugin?
Just go to github.com/Mirantis/container-cloud-CLI and follow the instructions.